Hi. Sorry, my last class ran a little late. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm good. I don't think I need this jacket anymore, though. One sec. Okay. Oh, why is it this warm in January? Okay, that's better. Okay. So, you said you have an idea for a story. No, not at all. I think that's great. I mean, that's what the club is for. It's not all about tenure or something. I mean, if you've got a good idea, it's a good idea. It doesn't matter if you've been here for 3 days or 3 years. I mean, a story worth telling is a story worth telling. Where it can get a little more complicated is when it comes time to publish. Where does the story end up? I mean, that's the part that grinds my gears usually. Everything I've made for the club gets published somewhere, but that could be the front page or it could be a buried social media post that's kind of in the hands of the higher ups. But even within that, it's a question of the subject matter, not how long you've been a part of the club, so don't let that part scare you. And even if the editors don't choose to heavily feature the piece, that doesn't mean it can't still end up making a big impact. And impact doesn't have to mean engagement numbers anyway. There's something to be said for depth of reach rather than breadth of reach. Or at least there should be. But hey, that's a rant for another day. I don't want to get too in the weeds. I want to hear what you're thinking. What's the idea? About your latency. Oh, wow. Okay. No, I think that could be a really fascinating story to tell. There are so few latents, and from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but incredibly few who actually awaken their powers later. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, that's a story we haven't heard a lot about. It's a part of the magical world that never really gets a spotlight. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think so too. If if I do put on my objectivity hat for a bit, though, let me ask you this. I certainly don't claim to know how you feel about all of it. Or maybe more precisely how you feel about each of the parts of it. I'm sure it's not a monolith, but I would imagine there's a lot of emotions there. Maybe complicated ones, maybe conflicting ones, maybe not. I mean, you'd have to tell me. But I guess all I mean to ask with that is, do you think you're at a place with your experience where you are ready to talk about it to write about it, to put it in the public eye, relive it. Well, it might be too grand of a statement, but it would involve recollecting it, at least in some level of detail. I mean, do you think that would be difficult? Yeah. No, I hear you. That makes sense. Difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't. Most important conversations are difficult on some level. They're difficult because they matter, because they have impact, because they're felt deeply. I mean, that's exactly what makes them important. But there is also a fine line between pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and re-immersing yourself in an experience in a context that you're not ready for, where you might not have the tools or the support that would make exploring that topic a safe and helpful thing to do, rather than a, well, ultimately damaging one. And in fairness, sometimes that's a line that we just don't know for ourselves until we've crossed it. It's also important to consider the public eye aspect of it. And specifically, I mean by that the implicit invitation to strangers weighing in on your experiences, your feelings, your thoughts. I mean, there's always the option not to engage with those responses, to not read the comments, to try not to take that in, but that's generally much harder than it sounds. And it already sounds hard. It is. I mean, generally, we share stories for the sake of response. Not necessarily response that we have any interest in internalizing, but we put things out for them to reach someone, and it's tough to not then circle back to see how the people it reached feel about it. And especially when the story that we're telling is about ourselves, when it's not fiction and it's lived experience, it's personal feelings, it's personal thoughts, that threshold that a solely fictional creation might provide, where it isn't you that they have an opinion about, it's your creation. When it's your own life you're telling, even that thin wall isn't there. I don't mean for any of this to be discouraging. I think that sharing our experiences through stories is beautiful. I mean, I think it's fundamental to community, and I think community is so important. It's the whole reason why I want this to be my job someday. I love meeting people. I love hearing about their lives. I love hearing about the things that make them unique, and celebrating those things, but also finding all the incredible, beautiful things that people actually have in common, even when those things could have been isolating in other times of their lives, in other places that they've been, in other communities they were a part of. Maybe they didn't choose those ones, like school or their work or their family, but those things that can be the unifying thing of a whole new found community that they maybe didn't even know existed, or they didn't know the reach of it. They didn't know the scale of what they were also a part of, or what their experiences spoke to. I think all of that is so cool and is at the core of what I want to be a part of. But I gave all those caveats at the start to say that I also put a high priority on the well-being of the people whose stories are being told. And if someone isn't ready to tell that story, I wouldn't want them to feel pressure to tell it in a space or in a way that might not be healthy. And life is built on exceptions. I'm not saying that set completely in stone. Sometimes we don't have the luxury of doing everything exactly the right way, and sometimes we don't know we didn't do something the wrong way until we already did it. And now I feel like I'm kind of just talking in circles. Sorry. The core point I just want to get across is I think telling your story could be a really cathartic experience. And I think it could mean a lot to the people who hear it. But since you did ask, my one suggestion would be to just make sure that it's a story you're ready to tell and ready to have known by other people. And maybe part of that would be to first tell it to some people that don't know it, but who you feel you could trust it with, and then just see how that feels, and live in that for a little bit, and then go from there. And if you do find that it's something you're comfortable with, and it's something you want to go through with making, the club's got all kinds of resources that can help. If there's any research needed or fact checking, I don't know as much with a personal story if that would be part of it, but or just structural edits, all that kind of stuff. Whatever you need to have the story in a place that you're comfortable with before it goes out. That's another perk of this being a completely volunteer hobby club kind of thing. You don't have to worry about deadlines or word counts or that kind of stuff that would be part of it if it was a full-blown job. You can make it on your own terms and release it on your own terms, or not release it. Whatever feels best. Yeah, of course. I'm glad I could help. I don't know how much I really did, but if you say it helped, I'm happy to have done it. My story What part? Being a student media nerd with an organization problem? Oh, yeah, the House of Merrick stuff. I yeah, I mean, I don't know that um no, no, you're good. You are good. Don't don't worry. It's not. No, you didn't. It's all good. It's all good. I promise. No, I just I don't know that story would matter much to anybody. It's it's just my situation is it's very specific. I don't know that it would be reaching anybody. Yeah, I don't know that there's breadth or depth there. Maybe you're right. Maybe it would. I I don't know if that's a story I'm ready to put out there, though. Yet. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I guess my own advice would apply there, huh? Maybe I will. I mean, when the advice comes from such a reputable source, who am I to say no?